Good morning. I guess I'll start since I invited everyone here. I will say that we had a really good meeting. We have decided, I think, that it's in the best interest of everyone if we do a special session. I will say we're not quite there exactly on every detail yet. I think we've made some really good progress to having an agreement. We have decided that we think that special session will happen in the third week in August. We don't know exactly the date, and of course, that's a little up in the air with making sure we can get members here during that time frame, but we made some really good progress on a lot of the issues, and I think we're all moving closer together to get a special session called. Obviously there's some important things that Minnesotans are anticipating that were in the tax bill and also in that bonding/transportation funding bill. So we want to make sure, I think, all together that get those things done, and Minnesotans are assured that they can count on those things happening. So we're not totally there, as I said, but we're making very good progress and hoping we can get a special session the third week in August. With that,
Well, I want to thank the Speaker and the Governor. They've been having some conversations over the last couple of weeks that brought us a lot closer together. And really, I think largely the reason we can't nail down firmly for you what the deal is we've got some committees that need to do some work. There was a pension bill that was vetoed, and we think there are some things in there that are not objectionable that we'd like to make part of this special session. There were some LCCMR projects that were vetoed that we would like that money repurposed, so we'd like the LCCMR to get back together. There are some issues around transit that we need to get the CTIP counties together with MnDOT and try to figure out, is there a solution to that. Decisions that we really don't have enough information to answer. There's an issue around a Senate proposal on the coverage of autism for health insurance that the House had a hard time with, but we're going to try to get the HHS people together and see if we can find some resolution to that. So, but I think in principle, it's going to come together, and I think the Speaker's right. Probably in the third week of August is what we're aiming for.
I want to thank the Speaker and the Majority Leader. It was a very cooperative meeting, very cooperative spirit to the meeting, and again, where there's a will, there's a way, and the will is there, I believe, to work these final details out and have a special session and pass the tax and bonding bills in a way that it'll benefit Minnesotans all over the state. So it was good meeting, and I'm more hopeful than I've been previously about the prospects for the special session. Is it?
It was a good meeting.
so we can answer some questions if you have.
Have you all agreed on the dollar amount of the bonding bill?
We have not totally yet. I think the desire is to keep the general obligation portion of the bonding bill under $1 billion. I mean, that's kind of been one of my recommendations or requests, and I think in spirit, I think we can get there, and I think we can do that and still honor some of what the governor's priorities are in his requests, and we're very close to that. I think we're trying to figure that out completely, but we do have some flexibility in that bill because there was some cash portion of that bill, so we can move a few things around that would free up some capacity that can help us make sure the governor's priorities are represented as well.
What about logistics? Could you have even
Well,
a session in this building now in this condition?
We believe that we can. The room that we used as our temporary chamber the last time around a year ago when we had a special session is open and available. We do have some concerns about, and this is what is impacting our timing, the television equipment that would allow us to broadcast that session and the cameras and all of that. That equipment, the area around that equipment is being worked on right now. The equipment itself we don't think was damaged, but it's been shut down, and so there's a little bit of a time constraint that we can't do it prior to them being able to turn that on and retest that equipment.
Are you still opposed to going over to the Senate?
If I am not, if that works better and it's something that we need to do, we'll do that. But I think we can do it here. Our staff did an amazing job of putting that together the last time. I think our members were comfortable with the way that we did that, so I think we'd prefer to do that. I actually think that would be the least cost involved as well, but there's also some concern because the Senate chamber is scheduled to start being taken apart on the 15th of August. So we can't really start until the 15th, and they should really have it done before the 15th. And we don't know that, frankly, logistically, that we can do it before the 15th. I'm going to be out of town for a little bit. The governor's going to be out of town after that. But actually, we need that time that both of us are out of town to get these committee chairs and committee members working on some of the logistical things, and there are a few unanswered questions. We're going to have to fix some language in some of the bills because of timing, and so we need time for the committees and chairs to work on those things.
Can you talk about what's now on the checklist and what's been checked off? The tax bill, is it largely agreed to, other than the date changes you need?
I think the tax bill is largely agreed to. I don't want to speak out of turn, so if somebody wants to chime in, certainly do that. The bonding bill, obviously that's the bigger portion with the transportation. We want to let the chairs and the conference committee work on looking at all those earmarks, making sure that they're either needed or, or can adjustments be made because of timing. We need to look at the governor's list of projects and try to prioritize getting those things in. And we're just not quite there yet, but we need a few questions answered by the committee as well. So that's kind of the outstanding issues. And Senator Bakk kind of.
I've agreed to give up my additional spending requests in the June 1st letter to the legislative leaders, and in return to keep all of the bonding projects with the exception of the sex offenders project St. Peter, and we're taking another look at the Fort Snelling in terms of possible staging of that project, so it's not all the $34 million I put down in one lump sum. But I leave everything else is, not finally agreed to. But that's my share of giving up the additional spending and keeping the bonding, which are all very, very good projects and important to Minnesota.
St. Peter would be in the still government, yes.
The security hospital. Yes.
So then, where have you moved? What have you changed?
Well, obviously, we are agreeing to, put some of the governor's projects on the capital investment side into the bill, that's a fairly, there's a significant number of projects, and it wasn't that we ever objected necessarily to the projects individually, but the bill is getting large, and of course everybody here knows that the complexities of putting together a bonding bill. If it's too large, you lose votes. If it's too small, you lose votes. So you have to find that kind of sweet spot. But we do have projects around the state that need investment, and they are very worthy projects, and we're working with the governor to make sure we can get a bill put together that not only represents the interests of the legislature, but also that the governor is willing to sign. And I feel like we're getting close to that.
Where's Southwest Light Rail this morning?
That is one of the things that is outstanding. I mean, we obviously, I do not support the Southwest Light Rail project. I don't think that it's a wise investment of our transportation dollars. It is a controversial project. We are working through that. It's one of the complexities that we haven't totally worked out, but I think we need some input from people outside of this building before we can go too much further on that.
Mr. Majority Leader, Southwest Light Rail is still a necessary as far as your caucus is concerned to move forward, and does this special session not happen if you don't have some sort of funding for Southwest Light Rail?
Well, I think we're going to find some resolution to that. Apparently, there have been identified a number of different alternatives relative to Southwest Light Rail and accessing the federal money. We need to hear from those affected counties that are in CTIB as to what potentially the options are, but it seems like there's a path there.
So how firm or fragile is this entire agreement in principle?
Well, I would just note that in order to have an agreement, we have to have the agreement of all the leaders, and so we have work to do, there as well. But I think it's important to note that, there's a lot of consensus about how we can move forward around bonding and taxes, and that's a really good thing.
I'm sorry, I trust you that there's consensus. I don't actually hear all that much movement. You haven't figured out a lot of the agenda. Southwest Light Rail is still on the table. What has changed that makes you smile today rather than frown behind last
Well,
month?
I don't want to speak for the speaker, but again, I offered to give up all the additional spending that I requested. And in return, I believe I'm going to, all the additional bonding projects, except for the sex offender part of St. Peter, are going to be accommodated in one way or another. So I consider that to be a significant concession on my part and a significant agreement that we've close to reaching. We still need to work out the details, but I think that's very significant. And we talked a long time about the Metro Transit. We didn't come to a conclusion because, as others have said, we need some more information from some of the principals in that. But we spent a great deal of time talking about that. And most importantly, as I said, that, there was we had met for over 2 hours. It was a very, very constructive meeting, very cooperative spirit, and the first time really since the end of the regular session, I believe that the special session is very doable, and that there's a shared willingness to do everything possible to achieve that. We can't guarantee it, and there are other parts down the road. There are other people who are going to have to be involved, but again, where there's a will, there's a way, and I think there's a will.
Governor, Minority Leader Thiessen yesterday put out a letter asking that something concerning police training or police community relations be put on this agenda. Is that being considered?
We talked about that. My concern is, and we don't make a final decision because events are still unfolding. I mean, I think we need to give some very thoughtful attention to that, and I'm not sure we can do that properly in the amount of time available before the special session. It absolutely is on my agenda for the regular session, and I want to have the opportunity to engage with various stakeholders in that process and have something that really comes out that's really thoughtful and going to make a difference across the state. And I don't believe that we can get to that point as quickly as a special session, and that's my view.
Governor, did you talk about additional emergency relief for disasters?
We're still totaling up the costs of the various disasters that occurred. I was in Watkins, especially damaged, and Litchfield, and Lieutenant Governor was up looking at the flood damage, which is still unfolding. We have $19 million in the fund. I believe that will be sufficient to cover, but we'll know better over the next week or two as the counties can make their assessments.
So on legislative leaders, are you planning joint committee hearings or individual House and Senate hearings? What's your plan now?
I think our first priority will be to get, we've kind of identified issue areas or questions that we need to have answered. So our first priority will be to get those committee chairs talking to each other with a representative from, whether it's Myron Franz or somebody else from the administration, to kind of help frame, are there easy things they can peel off and get things set up, and then eventually, yes, we will have, I think, conference committees. We'll reform those conference committees and have them work through in a public, transparent setting some of those unanswered questions. And I think we're trying to leave some of this intentionally open to let them solve it. So I want to back up just a minute to whether or not we're making progress and what may have helped. And I want to thank the governor. Actually, the last time we met, it didn't end the best, and both kind of had tense press conferences and went about our way. And when the governor returned from his trip to Europe with the National Guard, he called me actually on the 4th of July at home on my cell phone and asked if I would have lunch with him or dinner the next day, and it worked, and we ended up just the two of us alone, had lunch the next day and talked through a lot of the issues and what was outstanding, and I think we made some real progress that day, and I think that's why you heard us having tones of increased cooperation and optimism that we would actually get to a special session. So I appreciate the governor reaching out and being willing to have that conversation, and frankly, we weren't trying to hide from you, but sometimes it's easier to get away from the intensity of the pressure of the media and just have conversations that can help us work closer together. So it was very helpful.
Speaking of not trying to hide,
Yeah.
Thank you.
There have been some.
Thank you.
There have been some words saying that this would be a more transparent special session. Are you all going to release the full bills in order in advance so that people can actually read them and go through them?
Absolutely.
Mr. Speaker, can we get this sidestep for a second? Pence is Mr. Trump's choice. What do you think about that?
You know, it sounded last night like that would be the choice. You know, I don't know a lot about Governor Pence, but I think, you know, initially at face value, it sounds like a good choice. And you know, I look forward to, as busy as we are in the state and as distracted as we get with what's going on in the state, I look forward to hearing more ideas and more debate as we move towards the presidential election. But we've got a lot of work to do here in Minnesota, so that's where my focus is now.
Does that choice pull some reluctant delegates, Minnesota delegates, specifically Donald Trump's way?
You know, I don't know exactly. You know, I'm obviously traveling to the convention next week, and I literally haven't spent a lot of time thinking about the presidential race. We've been obviously busy having these conversations and focused on our work here, and I think the governor probably would agree that he's been focused here and not on presidential politics either. And I look forward to hearing the speeches and hearing from folks and frankly from other delegates when I'm out at the convention, and obviously we're going to be using that time constructively because we need our committee chairs and members of the committees to answer and work through some outstanding issues here in Minnesota while that's going on. But at face value, I think you know, it sounds like a good choice, and you know, hopefully we'll have some good debates on issues over the course of the next few months.
Do you see the tax bill change? A couple of weeks ago, you had asked that a couple of issues be put on the table regarding school enrollment issues and regarding preemption. Are those still on the table as part of these talks?
You know, I think in an effort to make progress, those issues are important. I never did say that those issues were required in order for us to have a special session or to agree to that. Just as the governor has agreed to make concessions on the spending portion of his requests, you know, I think we're willing to proceed without those. But we also want people to know we think those are important policies, and you know, hopefully we can continue that debate. But they're not required for a special session. No.
Does the tax bill change at all outside of the wording change and the state high school league money?
You know, I don't believe so, but and I think that's kind of our agreement that it's just those two. But I have a feeling there probably are some little language things and some timing things. A lot of that tax bill was to go into effect on July 1st, and because of that, I'm sure there probably will be some language changes to make some adjustments. But we're going to put the chairs in the room. But in spirit, I think all of us have agreed that those would be the two changes in the bill. I would assume there will be some logistical things that'll need to be changed.
That's all we have time for.
Governor, what do you know about Governor Pence from your interactions with him?
I'm met him on one in the NG meeting. I don't know well enough to make an observation.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.